What's up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Rich Talks BS. I'm your host, Rich. Week 17 in the NFL. What a week. This week, the final week of the regular season, was a great ending to an unusual season, I guess, kind of in a way, especially with a lot of opt-outs because of the pandemic and everything. Just no preseason, no camps, and it brought a lot of more people together in different ways than the usual. But week 17 was great finishes, great pushes for the playoffs. Unfortunately, some didn't make it, while others rode into the playoffs. So we're going to start out with the first game. Jets-Patriots. Jets 14, Patriots 28. Darnold with 266 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. Adams with 11 rushing attempts, 47 yards, 1 touchdown. Johnson with 11 rushing attempts, 45 yards. They had 111 rushing yards as a team. Perriman with 3 catches, 84 yards. Christopher Herndon with 7 catches, 63 yards, and 1 touchdown. Cam Newton with 242 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. He had 11 rushing attempts for 79 yards and a receiving touchdown. The receiving touchdown came from Jacoby Myers. Michelle with 16 rushing attempts, 76 yards. He also had 3 catches for 60 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 166 rushing yards as a team. Jacoby with 6 catches, 68 yards. They had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on defense. Jacoby Myers finished the season without a receiving touchdown, but 2 or more passing touchdowns, which is crazy, being you're supposed to be, the number 1 receiver, and you have no receiving touchdowns, but you have 2 passing touchdowns. Cam joined Hall of Famer John Elway as only players with 100 or more passing touchdowns and 30 more rushing touchdowns and 1 or more receiving touchdowns in their career. Jets have the number 2 pick. It's going to be interesting to see which way they go. They're not going to get Justin Fields. To me, it felt like it was either Lawrence or no QB. They wanted that number 1 pick. They should have got the number 1 pick, but they won the 2 games. But to have the number 2 pick is going to be interesting to see what they do with it, where they go with it, or even if they trade it to jump back a few spots. It's just going to be very interesting to see what happens. Next, we got Ravens-Bengals. Ravens 38, Bengals 3. Lamar Jackson with 113 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, 11 rushing attempts for 97 yards. Dobbins with 13 rushing attempts, 160 yards, 2 touchdowns. Edwards with 12 attempts, 60 yards. They had 404 rushing yards as a team. Boykin with 1 catch, 43 yards, 1 touchdown. Hollywood Brown with 5 catches, 41 yards, 2 touchdowns. The whole game they had 32 tackles, which is very low, meaning the Bengals were not on the field a lot, not on the field long, and barely ran any plays because Allen had 48 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Trayvon Williams with 4 rushing attempts, 74 yards. They had 147 rushing yards as a team. Carter with 1 catch, 21 yards. This Bengals team had 77 tackles compared to the 32 tackles that the Ravens had. Ravens become first team with 3 or more passing touchdowns and 400 or more rushing yards in a single game. Like I said, 400 rushing yards in a game, that's crazy. This run game is just up there with the best. It's going to be hard to stop them if they have, Dobbins and Edwards running as well as Lamar running, and they're rushing for almost 100 yards apiece. That's just going to be very hard to stop. We'll see what kind of what defenses hold up against it in the playoffs, since it's playoff time. It's going to be a different environment. The Ravens are 9-1 when Jackson has 70 or more rushing yards in the game. He's the first QB with 1,000 or more rushing yards in multiple seasons. He has 7,000 or more passing yards and 2,500 or more rushing yards in the first 3 seasons. Like I say, it's going to be interesting to see, how they stop that. Next, we got Steelers Browns. Steelers 22, Browns 24. Mason Rudolph came in. Ben Roethlisberger was out for rest. Rudolph had 315 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Connor with 9 rushing attempts, 37 yards. They only had 85 rushing yards as a team. Claypool with 5 catches, 101 yards, 1 touchdown. Smith-Schuster with 6 catches, 65 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 4 sacks as a team. Baker Mayfield with 196 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 6 rushing attempts for 44 yards. Chubb with 14 attempts, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 192 rushing yards as a team. Higgins with 2 catches, 55 yards. Landry with 5 catches, 51 yards. And Hooper with 5 catches and 1 touchdown. The Steelers failed on the 2-point attempt at the end of the game, which, lost the game by 2, 24-22. And this is the Browns' first playoff game since 2002. It's going to be interesting in the playoffs because it's a rematch. First round is the rematch, and it's going to be in Pittsburgh. And it's going to be hard for the Browns to win in Pittsburgh, especially with a few people that they have missing because of COVID. But the Steelers are going to have an easy first game. They should have an easy first game. Let's see what happens with the rest of the playoffs because it's going to be hard for them to keep playing the way they've been playing and to make a run in the playoffs. Next, we got Vikings Lions. Vikings 37, Lions 35. Cousins with 405 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. Madison with 21 rushing attempts, 95 yards, 1 touchdown. He also had a receiving touchdown. They had 125 rushing yards as a team. Jefferson with 9 catches, 133 yards. Stafford with 293 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Peterson with 7 rushing attempts, 63 yards, 1 touchdown. Swift with 12 attempts, 54 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 129 rushing yards as a team. Marvin Jones with 8 catches, 180 yards, 2 touchdowns. Cephas with 2 catches, 51 yards, and 1 touchdown. Jefferson is with 1,400 receiving yards this season, surpassing Aquan Bolden for the most by a rookie. These two teams got a lot to work on in the offseason, none making the playoffs, of course. We'll see what happens and what kind of transactions they make and see what they do in the draft. Like I said, they got some rebuilding to do. The Vikings they have a few role players that they need, and they can start, they can actually start competing. They don't have many pieces that they need, many more pieces that they need. They just need a few more, and they should be good. Next, we got Dolphins Bills. Dolphins 26, Bills 56. Tagovailoa had 361 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions. He had 6 rushing attempts for 28 yards. Ahmed with 6 attempts, 29 yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 4 catches for 57 yards. Gaskin had a rushing touchdown also. They had 70 rushing yards as a team. Parker with 7 catches, 116 yards. Josh Allen, 224 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Antonio Williams with 12 rushing attempts, 63 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 78 rushing yards as a team. Gabriel Davis with 2 catches, 107 yards, 1 touchdown. Diggs with 7 catches, 76 yards. McKenzie with 6 catches, 65 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Allen's with the most passing yards in a single season in Bills history, sitting at 4,544 yards. This Bills team is looking dangerous. They're gonna be dangerous in the playoffs. Sitting at the number 2, that's fine. They get at least one, home game. It's gonna be interesting. You've heard me say this: Chiefs Bills. It's still gonna be Chiefs Bills. That game is gonna be so entertaining. It's gonna be entertaining watching the Bills in general. The Bills are fun to watch. They're having fun. They're out there playing their game. They're picking apart defenses. They're doing what they need to do to win the game. And they're leaving it in the hands of Josh Allen, and Josh Allen is amazing. Good running for MVP this year also, It's going to be very interesting to see how he can handle the pressure, especially the deeper they get into the playoffs. Next, we got Falcons Bucks. Falcons 27, Bucks 44. Matt Ryan with 265 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, and 1 of them he lost. Brian Hill with 9 rushing attempts, 94 yards. They had 127 rushing yards as a team. Gage with 9 catches, 91 yards, 1 touchdown. Ridley with 8 catches, 52 yards. They had 4 fumbles and lost 2 of them. Brady with 399 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Jones with 12 rushing attempts, 78 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 94 rushing yards as a team. AB with 11 catches, 138 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Godwin with 5 catches, 133 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Mike Evans got injured in the third quarter. It was day to day. He should be okay to play this Sunday. I think they have the Sunday game, but he should be good to play this weekend. Brady is the first player in NFL history with 40 or more passing touchdowns in a season over 40 years old. Brady is still looking good. At 43, he still looks good. He's not slowing down. This is not going to be his last year. The Bucks have a chance of heading to the Super Bowl. Their only obstacle that I see that they, could lose to is the Packers. Their first game is against Washington. That's going to be a tough game. I don't think they'll lose that game, but it will be a tough game. It will be a close game, and it's going to show this team something that, a little spark that they need to make a run in this playoffs, because the NFC is not that easy also, especially when the roads to the Super Bowl goes through Green Bay. It's going to be interesting to see what they take from this Washington game to keep moving forward. Next, we got Cowboys Giants. Cowboys 19, Giants 23. Dalton with 243 passing yards, 1 interception, 7 rushing attempts for 48 yards. Elliott with 14 rushing attempts, 42 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 108 rushing yards as a team. Schultz with 7 catches, 70 yards. Cooper with 6 catches, 41 yards. Lamb with 5 catches, 43 yards. Zerline was 4 for 4 from field goals. Jones with 229 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Gallman with 11 rushing attempts, 65 yards. They had 125 rushing yards as a team. Shepard with 8 catches, 112 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 2 fumbles and 1 loss. They had 6 sacks as a team. For the Giants to win this game, they had the NFC East in their hands. They were just waiting on the Philly-Washington game, which, it was a little controversial, and how the Eagles were playing. But this NFC East division was starting to put everything together towards the end of the season. We're filling in pieces that we're missing at the beginning, where we were catching a good momentum, good morale. The NFC East is going to be dangerous next year. This year they were the worst. Next year they could be the best, but it's going to be interesting to see, where the NFC East goes. So we got Raiders Broncos. Raiders 32, Broncos 31. Carr with 371 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Jacobs with 15 rushing attempts, 89 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had 106 rushing yards as a team. Waller with 9 catches, 117 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 2 fumbles and lost both of them as a team. Locke with 339 yards, 2 touchdowns. Gordon with 26 rushing attempts, 93 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 122 rushing yards as a team. Judy with 5 catches, 140 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on this defense. Waller's the 6th tight end in NFL history with 100 or more receptions in a single season. And this game came down to the last play, last score. Raiders scored. Instead of tying, it went for the 2-point conversion, and it was successful. This Raiders team just fell apart right there towards the end of the season, mid-season, end of the season, and they just got to get their heads in the game. They've had games. They've gave the Chiefs their first loss of the season, which was pretty much their only loss of the season since they rested players. And this Raiders team is going to be good. They just need to keep everything together. They've also got a few more pieces left. I think there's a couple pieces on defense that they need, and they're gonna be fine going into the offseason. They're gonna be fine coming into next season also. Is It was just a crazy year for a few teams. A few teams catching catching the rhythm at first, getting wins, and then just kind of dipping down and then falling apart. Next, we got Jags Colts. Jags 14, Colts 28. Glennon with 261 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a fumble loss. Ogunbowale, 14 rushing attempts, 50 yards. They had 53 rushing yards as a team. Conley with 7 catches, 87 yards. Chenault with 6 catches, 68 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Rivers with 164 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Taylor with 30 rushing attempts, 253 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns. They had 273 rushing yards as a team. Hines with 6 catches, 50 yards. They had 6 sacks as a team also. Taylor's 253 rushing yards is tied for second most in a single game for a rookie. Jonathan Taylor, it was good this year. He was a little off at times. Wasn't consistent throughout the full year. Just a few times he dipped off, dipped down. He wasn't relevant in a few games, but he's coming in on his own. And for this Colts team to have a running back like Jonathan Taylor to be running the way he was running his rookie year, that's good because it's been a while since they've had a good running back. They found one. Now they just need to get the rest of the offense together. Rivers has 4,000 or more passing yards in a single season for the 12th time in his career, and that's tied for second. The way Phillip Rivers has been playing also, I get he's older. He's getting old, and his arm is not what it used to be. But for this Colts team to try to make a run in the playoffs, or to look like they belonged in the playoffs, they need this passing game to pick up. The running game is where it needs to be. The passing game needs to pick up. This offense needs to, put up a few more numbers and move a little faster. But we'll see how that goes. So next we got Saints Panthers. Saints 33, Panthers 7. Breeze with 201 passing yards, 3 touchdowns. Ty Montgomery with 18 rushing attempts, 105 yards. Taysom Hill also had a touchdown. They had 156 rushing yards as a team. Sanders with 9 catches, 63 yards, and 1 touchdown. Cook with 4 catches, 1 touchdown. They had 3 sacks and 5 interceptions on his defense. Bridgewater with 176 passing yards, 2 interceptions. Walker also had 95 yards and 3 interceptions. We had Smith with 10 attempts, 40 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 74 rushing yards as a team. Samuel with 7 catches, 118 yards. Moore with 5 catches, 101 yards. Breeze now has 97 career games with 3 or more passing touchdowns, and that's most in NFL history. We'll see how this Saints team can handle the playoffs, especially with this being Drew Brees' last season also. It's going to be interesting how he rides off in the sunset. He's almost not the same, but he kind of is. So we're going to see how these playoffs put work on Breeze's body. He's not going to get a ring. He's not going to make it to the Super Bowl, but we'll see, how far he can get, whether it's just the first game or he's going to win the first 2. So it's just going to be interesting to see. So, especially with, he's a little bit younger than Brady, but Brady just looks better. His body is more in shape, I guess you could say. But Drew Brees, had a good career, great career, arguably one of the best quarterbacks out there ever in NFL history. Next, we got Packers Bears. Packers 35, Bears 16. Aaron Rodgers with 240 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Jones with 11 rushing attempts, 42 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 79 rushing yards as a team. Valdez-Scantling with 2 catches, 87 yards, and 1 touchdown. Adams with 6 catches, 46 yards, and 1 touchdown. Trubisky with 252 passing yards, 1 interception. Montgomery with 22 rushing attempts, 69 yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 9 catches for 63 yards. They had 108 rushing yards as a team. Mooney with 11 catches, 93 yards. Rodgers now has 56 career games with 3 or more touchdowns and no interceptions. He's also the first to have 40 or more passing touchdowns and 5 or fewer interceptions in a single season. Which Aaron Rodgers and this Packers team is on a move. They're trying to finish this season. They're not trying to, be left behind, or they're not trying to, be looked at as, best team in the NFC, have the number 1 spot, get that first bye, and then to have it all go away in the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers is having one of his greatest seasons ever. He's having an MVP season. He's in the running for MVP. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets it. And this NFC playoffs is going to be really interesting, a little entertaining. It's going to be more of a chess match, but it's going to be very, interesting to see. Especially to see who they actually play in the NFC Championship game, because this Packers team has what it takes to make the Super Bowl. They have what it takes to compete and to make it a close game in the Super Bowl, no matter if it's the Bills or the Chiefs. But we'll see what happens. It's going to be fun. I can't wait. Next, we got Seahawks 49ers. Seahawks 26, 49ers 23. Wilson with 181 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 5 rushing attempts for 29 yards. Carson with 11 rushing attempts, 44 yards. He also had 2 catches for 39 yards. They had 121 rushing yards as a team. Lockett with 12 catches, 90 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Beathard with 27 passing yards, 1 touchdown. Wilson with 20 rushing attempts, 76 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 86 rushing yards as a team. Bourne with 5 catches, 76 yards. Kittle with 7 catches, 68 yards. Lockett with 100 receptions this season is the most in single season Seahawks history. Wilson also with 40 or more passing touchdowns in a single season. That's most in Seahawks history also. This Seahawks team is very interesting. Up and down, back and forth. They just have not been consistent. Russell Wilson hasn't been consistent. This defense hasn't been good. They started picking it up a little bit after a couple of trades. They're starting to look kind of like the old Seahawks defense, but they're not just quite there yet. Like I said, this team's been inconsistent all year. You don't know what Seahawks team you're going to get. You don't know what Seahawks team is coming to win or just coming to play. The playoffs is going to be very interesting to see what, how they do, what they do to show their presence in the playoffs. Especially since they have the Rams, third time this season, and the Rams seem like they're ready for the Seahawks. But we'll see what happens. We'll see how it goes. We'll see which team, which Seahawks team arrives to the game, which Russell Wilson arrives to the game. Especially with that defense. The Rams defense is really good. It's just, we'll see who shows up. Next, we got Titans-Texans. Titans 41, Texans 38. Tannehill with 216 passing yards, 1 touchdown. He has 7 rushing attempts for 38 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Henry with 34 rushing attempts, 250 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a fumble loss. They had 288 rushing yards as a team. Brown with 10 receptions, 151 yards, 1 touchdown. They had 4 sacks on the defense also. Watson with 365 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. David Johnson with 14 rushing attempts, 84 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 96 rushing yards as a team. Cooks with 11 catches, 166 yards, 2 touchdowns. QT with 6 catches, 90 yards. Fairburn was 4 for 4 from field goals. Watson has 4,823 passing yards in a single season. That's the most in Texans history. Like I said, Deshaun Watson has been playing his game. He's been putting up his numbers. He hasn't thrown interceptions much. He's putting up yards, putting up touchdowns, putting up points. It's just, he doesn't have the receiving core he needs. These receivers are okay. They're just okay. Like, these receivers are not great. These are not number 1 receivers. It's like having an offense full of 2 and 3 receivers. number 2 and number 3 receivers, and most of them play like number 3s. And it's crazy that they're not. They they need to build some receivers. They need to get some receivers around this quarterback. Watson is very good. He's very smart. He makes good plays. He's playing like he plays, and his number. If you look at just his numbers, you would have thought they've been winning and they're in the playoffs, but they're not. This defense is having trouble. Also, the morale is bad. The locker room morale is bad. Field morale is bad. There just needs to be changes there, especially since J.J. Watt does not want to be there anymore. So that's where their main focus, I think, is going to be in the offseason, is rebuilding that defense, and then later on just adding a few more receivers to this offense. So then now we have Derrick Henry with 2,027 rushing yards, 5th most in NFL history, and the 8th player to rush over 2,000 yards. It's going to be very interesting to see how Derrick Henry and these Titans, make their run this year, since they've had a run before. They did that last year. They weren't expected to win the games that they won, making it to the AFC Championship game, 1 game away, falling to the Chiefs, almost tasting it right there, Super Bowl, right there in their grasp, and then lose it. It's going to be a little bit harder to do that this year, especially with, again, with the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, possibly the Steelers. It's just a harder playoff this year than it was last season. But we'll see, what they do. We'll see how they can handle the pressure. We'll see, if Derrick Henry is still going to be running over everyone, putting up the yards that he's been putting up. Tannehill just needs to air it out a little bit more, just a little bit more. If he airs it out a little bit more, they should be okay in the playoffs. Next, we got Cardinals, Rams. Cardinals 7, Rams 18. Murray with 87 passing yards. He got taken out. So they put in Streveler with 105 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Drake with 10 attempts, 36 yards. They had 48 rushing yards as a team. Sherfield with 4 catches, 44 yards. Hopkins with 4 catches, 35 yards. Wolford, first start ever in the NFL. 231 passing yards, 1 interception. He had 6 rushing attempts for 56 yards. Akers with 21 rushing attempts, 34 yards. They had 110 rushing yards as a team. Akers also had 4 catches for 52 yards. He had a fumble loss. Van Jefferson with 4 catches, 50 yards. They had 4 sacks on defense also. The Rams are 35-0 when leading in halftime since 2017. If this Rams team picks up the offense where it needs to be, especially against this Seahawks team, it most likely looks like they're gonna win the game. Having that record and leading at halftime, that's pretty, impressive. This Cardinals team just fell apart. Murray was never fully recovered, never fully healthy. He played. He did what he could when he could. This team just needs a few more pieces left. That's it. They need to get Kyler Murray a tight end, a more sufficient tight end, a more just a better tight end. Period. Dependable tight end, and they can do more damage. This Rams team, we don't know if Jared Goff is going to start this weekend. He's out. He had surgery on his thumb. Not sure if he's going to be able to make it. If not, I think they should be okay with Wolford. They're going up against the Seahawks. It's going to be interesting to see, like I said, which Seahawks team shows up is going to determine how the Rams play. The Rams should be good, though. Good defense. The offense is getting there. I just don't know which quarterback is going to lead this team. Next, we got Chargers, Chiefs. Chargers 38, Chiefs 21. Herbert with 302 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown. Justin Jackson with 9 rushing attempts, 72 yards. Balaj was 13 attempts, 36 yards, and 1 touchdown. They had 135 rushing yards as a team. Williams with 6 catches, 108 yards, 1 touchdown. Parham and Eckler also had a receiving touchdown each. Henne with 218 yards, 2 touchdowns. Darwin Thompson with 14 rushing attempts, 45 yards, and 1 touchdown. He also had 7 catches for 65 yards and 1 touchdown. They had 51 rushing yards as a team. Robinson with 6 catches, 58 yards. Pringle with 4 catches, 1 touchdown. They had 3 fumbles but lost 1 of them. Herbert now with 31 passing touchdowns extends the rookie record in a single season. 8 games with 300 more passing yards, most by a rookie. 6 games with 3 or more passing touchdowns. That's also most by a rookie. Most completions in the season by a rookie with 396. Justin Herbert should be like unanimously rookie of the year. He's been doing great this rookie season. Coming in, taking over, and when he took over, he took over. That was it. There was no looking back. There was no who's gonna start this week. It was he put his stamp on it. He took it. He ran with it. He is your future. He was already supposed to be your future anyway, but now it starts. This season started that. This season, finalized that. Justin Herbert is great quarterback. Few more receivers, a couple more receivers. I take that back. A couple more receivers. The offensive line is good. This defense is what needs to be worked on this offseason. I'm pretty sure they're going to do that. They're going to put in work in creating a defense for this Chargers team to complement this offense, because this offense is great. This offense is good. Chargers offense is good. They've got young players. They got young guys. They got some good guys. They got role guys. Keenan Allen leading the way with in the locker room, good field presence, good locker room presence. A veteran to help put this team where they need to be. And finally, we got the Sunday night game. Washington 20, Eagles 14. Smith with 162 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Gibson with 19 rushing attempts, 75 yards. They had 103 rushing yards as a team. Sims with 5 catches, 43 yards. McLaurin with 7 catches, 40 yards, and 1 touchdown. Thomas also had a receiving touchdown. They had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on this defense. Hurts with 72 passing yards, 1 interception. He had 8 rushing attempts for 34 yards and 2 touchdowns. They took him out and brought in Sudfeld. He had 32 passing yards, 1 interception, and 1 fumble loss. Boston Scott with 15 rushing attempts for 65 yards, 118 rushing yards as a team. Arcega-Whiteside with 2 catches, 40 yards. They had 3 sacks and 2 interceptions on this defense. The controversy in this game was the Eagles letting Washington win, I guess you could say. They didn't play to their full potential. They let plays go. They didn't do much. They didn't leave Jalen in. Jalen Hurts didn't finish the game. They brought in the backup. They just were out there just to be out there. A few people have said something. Judge, the coach from the Giants, has come out and said something about it. Doug Peterson, the coach for the Eagles, was like, hey, we played our game. I don't see anything wrong with how we played. But Washington wins the NFC East. They're in the playoffs. They have Tampa. They have Brady and the Bucks. And it's going to be very interesting to see, because this defense is good. This Washington defense is actually legit. They're good. They're fast. They hit hard. It's just the offense. Which quarterback is going to play. They don't know which quarterback is going to start. They don't know, who's going to lead this offense against this Bucks defense. I kind of feel like it doesn't matter, but Alex Smith will be your best choice. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a hard-fought game. This game is going to be good. Washington and the Bucks, actually in Washington, it's going to be interesting to watch. Like I said, I don't see Washington winning. I see the Bucks winning. I see Brady coming out on top, but it's going to be what they take out of this game to help them with the other games in the playoffs. So week 17, playoffs are here. Playoffs this weekend, 3 games on Saturday, 3 games on Sunday, and it's going to be fun, entertaining. Can't wait. That's all the BS I have for this episode. Until next time.